Welcome back to Imperfect, the Heart-Centered Leadership Podcast. It's been a whirlwind after the summer. I had such a good summer that I burnt myself out and had to take a couple months off recording the podcast, but we're back and we've got a lineup of special heart-centered leaders, and we're starting with one today. I want to welcome Alysia Christiaen to the show. And she is a new colleague, a new lawyer friend, and we're going to talk about her new initiative. I'm not going to give the spoil alert yet, but Alysia, welcome to the show. And we are humble and excited to tell you our little show is now in 87 countries. People like our heart-centered, aligned, meaningful conversations. So tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Okay, about me. So I am a lawyer. I practice corporate law and also privacy law in London, Ontario, in Canada. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. And I recently started an initiative, which we will be chatting about, which is very near and dear to me and really based on personal experience that I had in the profession and things that I felt and thought that when I was experiencing it, would be nice if there were others that I could kind of turn to talk to about it. So I decided to do something about that and created my initiative.
And here we are, and we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to let you say the name of your initiative because this is your baby that you birthed, no pun intended. Tell us the name.
It's Child-Free Women in the Workplace. So yes.
You know what I love about this, and you have it on your website, is you're not only changing the equation of woman equals mother, but you're really advocating as a woman that you can have a life that's full of joy and balance and integration on the work side, career, whatever you want to call it. And it's okay to make a choice to not be married, to not have kids. And that's where I want to deep dive on this because I think a lot of listeners are really going to resonate with your message. And we are going to have all the details of your social below in the podcast episode description. But I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to dive into my leadership questions. And it's always fun asking a lawyer questions because I know you're ready. I know her game face is on. Okay, so advocating for inclusivity in the workplace, you have recognized and valued the diverse life choices for women. So my first question around leadership for this is around your vision and your impact. So I would love to know what inspired you to create cf2.com. That's going to be my acronym for it, if you don't mind today.
Yeah.
How do you envision it transforming your legal landscape, particularly in the narrative around women in law beyond the traditional equation of woman equals mother? Because I know you're not just going to stay in the legal world. You're going to be in every sector women are in. But let's start near and dear to the one that you're in terms of your vision and impact.
Yeah, so for me, really, I'm hoping that Child-Free Women in the Workplace or CFW Squared will be a way for lawyers, but like female lawyers, but really any professional to feel comfortable in the choice that they are making when it comes to having children. I've always been very comfortable in my choice to not have children, but where I become uncomfortable is when I would be asked Do you have kids? And I recognize that this is often just an icebreaker question, but I immediately get concerned. Am I going to be judged because I've chosen to not have children? Or are stereotypes going to be applied to me because I have chosen to be child free? So I wanted to start CFW Squared because I wanted to kind of educate people that, A, it's okay to be child free, and B, to raise awareness of this perspective and that, um, you know, trying to be inclusive in your workplace, whether that be a law firm or any other type of workplace, you really need to be taking into consideration the child-free worker as well. Research shows that a lot of the time they're asked to, take on a heavier workload, get lower priority for holiday requests, have to travel more, because the employer wants to be able to afford their workers with children an opportunity to be with their family. But it almost assumes then that the priorities of the child-free worker are not as important. An employer might not know that a child-free worker has an elderly parent that they are providing care to, or a disabled sibling or close friend that they provide care to, or just need to rest, or just, or have a hobby that they're very involved in, or play a sport, or volunteer for a board that, keeps them very busy. So it's really just about raising awareness about this perspective. And it really all came from a LinkedIn post was where it started. I shared, reposted an image, and the message behind the image was that the priorities of child-free women matter too. And I had made a comment that I tend to not attend women-focused conferences because I find that the majority of the material isn't relevant to me because I don't have children. And that post got so much engagement. There were like 350 likes. It was seen 19,000 times. And it really made me realize that there was an audience for this type of information. And that's kind of set me off on the path of creating child-free women in the workplace.
Well, and that information is creating great dialogue, right? So I always love those, serendipitous moments of maybe I should do this. So
Yeah,
good for you. Okay,
thank
my
you.
second question has permanent residency on the show. We've asked 200 leaders this question. Laughter is allowed, candor, humor. What imperfections does Alysia have that shows up every day in her heart centered leadership?
Oh, imperfections. Well, I'm not very patient. I think that's my big one. So, but I try hard to work on that one. And I kind of have like a don't talk to me until I have my cup of tea rule. Like, let me get in and get to work and, have that first sip of caffeine to help me feel better. So that's one I would say that, I try to work on in terms of an imperfection. Um, Something else, an imperfection that helps with my leadership. I think probably, um, brutal honesty might, it can get me in trouble, but at the same time, I think that people appreciate the fact that they know that they can come to me, and I'm going to tell them like it is, politely, and very mindful of their feelings. I don't want to deliver it in such a way that it's the message is lost because the person is hurt by the delivery. But yeah, I actually, pride myself on being completely honest, even when I might not want to be, because it's going to be uncomfortable. I don't think that there's value for a member of my team if I'm not honest with them. If there's areas for improvement. One of the nicest things I've received, or one of the nicest compliments I received from a friend was that they were always comfortable sharing with me because they knew I wouldn't judge them. And so to me, I don't judge them. I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking, but it's not from a place of judgment. It's, who am I to judge? Nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. Um, but I'll let them know exactly what I'm thinking, and it's not coming from a place of judgment, but a place really of caring. Like I want
Yeah.
them to be able to do better and improve. And to me, if you're not receiving honest feedback, then you're never going to, like, you can't improve if all you're hearing is, oh, this is good, and then
Mhm.
that's not actually what the person thinks. To me,
Yeah.
you're
Yep.
not providing any value or assistance um, to and to the person that you're chatting with, your team member. And in a way, it's selfish, because
Mhm.
you're doing it to avoid being uncomfortable and having to deliver honest feedback to somebody. Um, so to me, I don't think it's a good way to be a leader, trying to avoid being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You really
It,
should be the most honest.
imperfection is the foundation to being uncomfortable, and those vulnerable moments that you talked about. I will share that patience has been a number one go-to in most people and leaders that have been on the show. So you're in very good
Oh,
company.
that makes me feel better.
Okay, my third leadership question is about overcoming challenges. So, as a female leader in the legal field, what specific challenges have you faced, whether it be creating and launching this new website? Have you navigated while advocating for inclusivity in the workplace and recognizing the diverse life choices of women?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like one challenge that I've had to be mindful of is, um, like when advocating this perspective, it may not sit well with everyone. It may not be
Mhm.
something that everyone thinks needs to be brought to the forefront. And I haven't had any direct negative feedback yet, but it is something that I thought about before launching CFW squared. Um, you know, some people may not agree at all with raising this perspective or encouraging women and men, for that matter, to choose a child-free lifestyle. And so I've certainly had to give pause to the impact that might have, because I've spent a lot of time, like as I said, 15 years building a professional practice as a lawyer. And while putting out, like, being vulnerable in terms of the CFW squared and the content that I write for it. I'm so glad that I've done that. And even, it's only been launched for about a month, and I've already gotten some really great messages from people just saying, like, thank you. And I agree completely. And, I love that there's this safe space. But it was something that I worried about in terms of how to navigate providing this safe space for people, and raising awareness of the child-free perspective in the workplace, with what that might mean for me in terms of a professional and business sense as well. Like, maybe one of my clients is just like, absolutely not. This isn't a perspective that should be um,
Mhm.
celebrated, or brought to the forefront. But at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, is that really a client that you want to have?
Yeah,
If
exactly.
they don't respect people's choices, and that's really all that I'm asking for, is just respect for the child-free choice and
Absolutely.
aware of it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, my last leadership question is around empowerment and mentorship. How do you plan to use your new platform to empower other women, whether it be in law or any sector, promote mentorship, and really foster that safe environment that values all contributions that women can bring, not just their life choices?
Yeah, I think that I really hope that CFW squared gives them confidence and in their choice, and provides them the knowledge of knowing that others have made this choice and are happy with the choice, and I just really hope that it provides them with that confidence to celebrate their choice and not feel less than because they've chosen to not have children. I really hope that if anything comes from CFW squared, it's just to give people who've chosen to be child free the confidence to, really embrace their decision and not be uncomfortable when they tell people that they're child free, and to pay it forward, and let others feel comfortable in their choice as well. So really, at the end of the day, that's what I hope comes of this, is just people feeling comfortable with their decision. Because even since starting to write for CFW squared, I can say that I feel more comfortable now saying that I'm child free. Before I'd say to somebody new that I was child free and just feel anxious, like a little,
Mm.
yeah, I would feel anxious. And I was talking to somebody new and they asked if I had children and I said, no, I'm child free. And I didn't have any kind of a like uh, any kind of a physical response. So I wasn't anxious, right? I said it and I was like, wow, okay, like this is what I wanted. Like this is what I was hoping would come of this, just being
Mm.
even myself. Just as I said, I was confident in the choice that it's the right one for me. But I for whatever reason, I felt uncomfortable when I would say it, and I think that's getting better for me, and I really hope that others get to experience that as well, to just not have that uncomfortable feeling when they say that they're child free, and be anxious about, what the response is going to be. Like, do they then have to start to defend their decision, or, worry that somebody's going to make a judgment about them because of,
Mhm.
of their life choice? So yeah, I think that's what I'm hoping comes from CFW squared.
It's so interesting. You've got me reminiscing about grade 13. Remember when we went to grade 13?
Oh, I see.
And a couple of my friends got married right out of grade 13, and there was five of us. And I was the last to get married. And I remember having that conversation like 30 years ago saying, but I don't want to get married to get married. Like, I want to get married organically. Like, if I meet the right person
Exactly.
and we fall in love, then I'll get married. And I was 27. And back in the early 90s, you could have called me an old maid looking in the context from my girlfriends.
Yeah.
But it leads me into this whole conversation that we're talking about. I never, put any kind of social or societal norms on myself either. Like, if I get married, great. If I choose to have kids, great. But I never looked in the mirror and thought less than if I wasn't going to do either. And that's what I love about the richness of this conversation. It's not a label, it's not an extrinsic value. It's a movement that you've started and you're at the front of the line, advocating, saying this is okay. And I just find it so interesting looking out, the last 3 decades. And I am the last of my friends that is still married, which I find super ironic.
Right.
And I think people put this obligation cloak on that, well, this is, my mother did this and my sister did this. And, we're from, this country in Europe and this is the way our family already did that. And you're like, hell no, like, let's break that mold. Like, let's change this up. And that's what I love. And I honestly think that you are the best person to be doing it. And I say that wholeheartedly, not just because you chose to have a professional law career, but even your personality. And I look at everything that's happened in your life and leadership and building your practice and
Yeah.
everything that you pack into this. And it's that culmination of your own life and leadership experiences where you were like, why not me? I'm going to do this. And one little post and one little comment was enough to give you the gentle nudge to let this thing just explode. So I'm so excited for you.
Me too. And yeah, I love how it came to be. Just like I usually do.
Organic. It was organic.
Yeah, and I usually do my LinkedIn post while I'm waiting for my tea to steep in the morning. And literally it was just that kind of scrolling along, seeing this post that resonated with me and sharing that along with some comments. And from that, the spark was lit. And I was like, okay, like I want to do something about this. Like this means something to me.
Well, the website's beautiful. And like I said, we're going to post all of your socials below. But I'm going to shift gears because we always have fun with all of our guests. And I'm going to ask you my Fab Four questions.
Okay.
You need to take your lawyer hat off. We do not want you thinking about these. We just want to know what's on the top of that brilliant mind of yours.
I'll do
So
my best.
here's my first question.
All
What's
right.
one practical tip you'd give to our listeners today to embrace heart-centered leadership into their daily lives?
Oh gosh. I think be yourself. Honestly, like just be yourself in everything that you do, whether it be work or out in the community when you're with friends or when you're volunteering. Be yourself. To try and be somebody else is just so exhausting. And it's so whatever relationships you might try to build, if you're not being yourself, they're gonna fracture and because you can't not be yourself forever. And yeah, I think just be yourself is my tip
It's
to.
great, great advice. Okay, second question. If your leadership style had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh gosh, that's a really good one. Deb. Um, oh gosh.
I know
Oh,
you're a foodie and I know you're a music lover, so I can't wait to hear this the answer to this.
the answer is Whole Lotta Woman by Kelly Clarkson.
That's awesome and
Yeah.
quite appropriate, right?
I think so. Yeah, I love that song. It's catchy. Yeah, that is it for sure. That's my leadership theme song, Whole Lotta Woman.
There you go. Okay, third one. What would summarize as a key takeaway or lesson from our discussion today?
Ooh, okay. Keep your eyes open. I think like I said, like the CFW squared and it just really came to be because I had my eyes open. I saw a need. And I decided to act on it. So just keep your eyes open because opportunities are going to present themselves, and if you're not watching, then you might miss it. So keep your eyes open.
You know, it's like a full circle moment when I get to the end of these interviews and all of the advice that you've shared, whether it be from the leadership questions or these fun questions at the end. They all have such representation in who you are as a woman and especially a heart-centered leader, being open, being yourself, being vulnerable, and not being afraid to put yourself out there only to realize there's so many other people who were thinking the same thing and you're leading that now. So, and I can say I know you.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
So such a pleasure to have you on here and so excited to get this out and share it with our global community. And I'm going to have you finish the show by finishing this sentence.
Okay.
Heart-centered leadership is.
Oh gosh. Genuineness. That's going to be my response.